The Appalachians have a way of swallowing you whole. Thick, ancient forests pressing in, mist curling like fingers over the ridges. I needed that. Needed the quiet, the distance, the way the world felt smaller here. After what happened with Marie, the city had become unbearable. Every street, every room, every damn shadow reminded me of her. So I packed my camera, my grief, and a half bottle of whiskey, and I drove until the roads turned to dirt. The locals didn't much like outsiders, but they tolerated me. Maybe because they saw the emptiness in my eyes. Maybe because they knew the mountains would claim me soon enough. Old Jeremiah at the general store warned me the first night. "You ain't from here, son," he said, chewing tobacco like it was a secret. "Things in these hills, they remember, and they don't forget easy." I laughed it off. I wasn't afraid of ghost stories. But then 3 nights in, I heard it, a sound like whispering from the trees outside my rented cabin. Not the wind. Not animals. Words. And when I checked my camera the next morning, there was a photo I didn't take down a figure, standing just beyond the tree line. Watching me, wearing Marie's face, I told myself the photo was just a malfunction. Digital cameras glitch all the time in humid conditions, and these Appalachian hollows were practically swimming in moisture. But when I zoomed in on the image, my throat went dry. The figure wasn't just wearing Marie's face, it was wearing her yellow sundress. The one she'd been buried in. The one I picked out myself that night. I got drunk on Jeremiah's moonshine, the burn in my throat almost strong enough to drown out the scratching at my cabin door. Almost. At 3:17 a.m., according to the blinking clock radio, something started humming Marie's favorite song, that stupid pop tune she played while making breakfast. The sound wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the walls. I spent the next morning hiking up to its only church, a whitewashed building clinging to the mountainside like a limpet. The pastor, a gaunt man with nicotine-stained fingers, turned pale when I showed him the photo. "That's not your wife, son," he said, crossing himself. "That's a hollow one. They're why we bury our dead with bells tied to their wrists." When I asked why, he just pointed to the oldest section of the cemetery, where crude metal bells hung from every weather-beaten headstone. That afternoon, I found the first scratch marks inside the cabin, 3 parallel grooves on the bedroom ceiling, directly above where I slept. My camera, which I had left charging on the kitchen table, had somehow taken 66 new photos while I was gone. All black except the last one, a blurry shot looking down at me sleeping from the ceiling's perspective. The worst part? The timestamp showed it was taken at 3:17 a.m. I was packing my gear when I heard the first bell, a single mournful chime from deep in the woods, then another, then dozens ringing in no pattern I could discern. Through my cabin window, I saw Jeremiah standing at the tree line, his shotgun cradled in his arms. "You don't want to go out there tonight, city boy," he said, spitting tobacco into the dirt. "They're waking up." When I asked who, he just pointed to the locket I'd left on my nightstand, the one that had definitely been closed when I found it. Now it hung open, the photo inside slowly curling at the edges like it was rotting in real time. The locket snapped shut the moment I touched it. I should have thrown it into the woods, should have burned it. But I couldn't. Because despite everything, the whispers, the photos, the impossible scratches on the ceiling, some sick, desperate part of me wanted it to be real. Wanted Marie to be out there waiting for me. That's how they get you. I spent the next day digging through town records in the crumbling Black Hollow library. The old librarian, Mrs. Harkin, watched me from behind thick glasses, her knitting needles clicking like insect legs. When I asked about the hollow ones, her hand stilled. "You don't look for them, boy. They look for you." But I kept searching, and in a water-stained ledger from 1893, I found it, a list of names all crossed out in red ink. Next to each one, a single word, taken. At the bottom, in fresher ink, was a new entry, Marie. My hands shook. She had never even been here. Had she? I tore through the rest of the ledger and found another page, a crude drawing of a figure with hollowed-out eyes and a mouth stitched shut with what looked like twine. Beneath it, a warning. They wear the faces of the lost. They speak with stolen voices. Do not follow. Do not listen. They are hungry, and they will make you forget. That night, the temperature in the cabin dropped so fast my breath fogged the air. The radio crackled to life on its own, playing nothing but static, until a voice broke through. "Ethan, you're close now." Marie's voice. But wrong. Garbled, like it was being pulled through water. I grabbed my rifle and stormed outside, following the sound of the bells, now ringing in a slow funeral march. The trees seemed to lean in as I walked, their branches weaving together overhead until no moonlight broke through. Then I saw her. Marie stood at the edge of a clearing, her back to me, wearing that yellow sundress. My heart lurched. Marie? She turned. Her face was rotten, her lips peeled back in a smile full of broken teeth. "You came," she rasped. Behind her, the trees moved. Shapes detached from the darkness, tall, too thin, their limbs bending in ways that made my stomach twist. I stumbled back, but my boot caught on something. I looked down .grave.my, own name stared back at me from the weathered stone. And that's when the whispering began, not from Marie, not from the things in the trees, but from inside my own head. "You promised. You promised. You promised," I ran, but the woods didn't let me go. The path twisted back on itself, leading me in circles until I burst into the same clearing. Marie was gone. The grave was gone. Only my camera remained sitting in the dirt, its lens pointed at me. The screen flickered to life. A video played, a grainy black and white clip of me, kneeling in front of the grave, digging with my bare hands. And as I watched, the thing where Marie's face leaned down behind me in the footage, its stitched mouth brushing against my ear as it whispered, "Keep digging." My fingers dug into the cold earth before I realized what I was doing. The smell of damp soil filled my nose as my nails scraped against something solid, the wooden lid of a coffin. My breath came in ragged gasps, fogging the air as I clawed at the dirt like a madman. Then I froze. The camera screen flickered again, showing a new scene, me standing over the open grave, holding a rotting corpse in my arms. My own lifeless face stared back from the video, skin gray and peeling. I scrambled backward, my hands slipping in the mud. The camera toppled into the grave with a hollow thud. That's when I noticed the bones scattered around me, not animal bones, but human. Femurs cracked open, skulls with strange markings carved into the foreheads. A twig snapped behind me. Jeremiah emerged from the trees, his shotgun leveled at my chest. "Should have left when you had the chance, city boy." His voice sounded wrong, too deep, like something was speaking through him. I raised my hands, my pulse hammering in my throat. What the hell is going on here? Instead of answering, he gestured to the grave with his gun barrel. "Look again." The coffin lid had splintered open. Inside lay Marie's body, perfectly preserved except for the crude stitching keeping her lips sewn shut. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing empty sockets that somehow still fixed on me. Then she spoke, the thread straining against her moving lips. "You broke your promise." The forest erupted in movement. Shapes detached from the shadows between trees-gone figures with elongated limbs, their faces shifting between familiar and alien. The hollow ones, and they were closing in. Jeremiah's shotgun blast nearly deafened me. The recoil knocked him backward as the shot tore through one of the advancing figures. It staggered but didn't fall, the wound knitting itself back together before our eyes. "Run!" Jeremiah grabbed my arm, his fingers like iron. "They can't cross running water." We crashed through the underbrush, the things behind us moving with unnatural silence. I could feel them getting closer, their breath like wind on the back of my neck. The creek appeared suddenly, its waters black in the moonlight. Jeremiah shoved me across the shallow ford just as something grabbed his coat. I turned in time to see his face go slack with terror as dozens of pale hands dragged him back into the darkness. His screams cut off abruptly. Alone now, I stumbled backward into the creek, the icy water soaking through my boots. The hollow ones lined the opposite bank, their forms blurring at the edges like smoke. One stepped forward. The thing wearing Marie's face, it raised a skeletal hand and pointed at my chest. I looked down to see the locket hanging open again. The photo inside now showing both our faces, with our mouths sewn shut. The last thing I heard before passing out was the sound of dozens of bells ringing deep in the woods. I woke up in the dark. Pain roared through my shoulder, sticky with blood, but I was alive. The ravine walls loomed around me, choked with roots and shadows. Above, the moon was a sliver of bone. I had to move. Gritting my teeth, I dragged myself toward a faint glow deeper in the ravine, a rusted mine shaft, its entrance gaping like a wound. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth and something older, something waiting. That's where I found Jeremiah's body. His throat was torn open, his shotgun still clutched in stiff fingers. His eyes were gone, just hollow sockets, as if something had licked them clean. I took the gun. Then I saw the markings on the mine walls, crude carvings of stick figures with two long limbs, their mouths open in silent screams, and below them, fresh scratches forming words. You promised a sound behind me. A whisper of fabric. I spun, firing blindly. The blast lit up the tunnel for a split second, just long enough to see her. Marie, not dead, not alive, something in between. Her skin was stretched too tight over her bones, her smile too wide. She lunged and the gun went off again. Her body jerked back, then collapsed into a pile of rotted cloth and yellowed bones. Silenced, I slumped against a wall, gasping. It was over. Then the bones twitched, and the whispers began, not from Marie's remains, but from the mine itself. From the dark, from everywhere, because I'd broken the only rule Jeremiah never told me. You can't kill what's already dead, but it can kill you. The cold water shocked me back to consciousness. I gasped, clawing at the creek bank as the current tugged at my legs. My clothes were soaked, my fingers numb, but the locket still burned against my chest. I pulled it free, my breath hitching. The photo had changed again. Now it showed me not as I was, but as one of them. My skin was stretched too tight over my bones, my eyes hollowed out, my mouth stitched shut with coarse black thread. And beside me, Marie, but not the Marie I remembered. Her face was a grotesque mockery, her smile too wide, her fingers too long. You were never supposed to remember, her voice whispered, not from the woods but from inside my skull. Memories flooded back, not dreams, not hallucinations, but truth. The crash, the blood, the way my body had been dragged into the trees by things with too many joints, and Marie screaming as she made the deal. Take me instead. But the hollow ones don't trade. They collect. They took her. And they took me. But I wasn't dead, Dot. I was worse, Dot. I was theirs. I staggered to my feet, the world tilting around me. The creek water rippled, then stilled, reflecting not my face, but the face from the locket. The hollow eyes, the stitched mouth. The realization hit like a knife between the ribs. I had been one of them all along. The me that walked into these mountains was just a skin they'd let me wear, a cruel joke, a way to make me believe I was still human long enough to bring them fresh souls. Jeremiah, Lila, the hikers before them, and now the cycle was complete. The trees rustled. Shapes emerged from the dark, dozens of them, their forms flickering between human and something else. The one wearing Marie's face stepped forward, her hollow eyes gleaming. Welcome home, she said. And this time when she reached for me, I didn't flinch because I remembered the hunger, the hunt, the way a human soul tastes when it finally breaks. I smiled, or tried to. The stitches in my lips pulled tight. The bells began to ring, and deep in the woods, a new hiker stumbled upon an abandoned truck. The cycle begins again.